basically, yeah, I'll do a quick intro, and then I'll have to go on run a few things. Everything it's gonna run smoothly. Everything should be fine. Everything is tested. QA has been done, and then I'll come back in 10 minutes or so, and you can just continue to do your thing. I'm super glad that we have been getting like a lot of volunteers even today. We are running this week like this Friday, this Friday thing, like 4 people.
Oh, okay.
I mean the whole convention takes like 600 people.
Yes, okay. I can.
I'm mainly using the IGDA handling network to utilize on this, of course, and also well,
Yes, yes.
talking with the trace page.
Yeah, okay.
And now, of course, I mean, we're still just like growing this up. This is like I said, this is full time. The first one was just like, oh, in 3 weeks now.
No, but I think it's already
All right. Okay, now it works. Good. All right, let's get ready for the next presentation, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to Sebastian.
Hello. Hello, Tampere. My name is Sebastian Bombera, and I've been doing ANNO games for 15 years now. To drop you in at the deep end, I'm going to show you a little marketing clip that we did way back in 2006 for ANNO 1701, just so you know what to expect with the game itself. Okay, it is in German, but you can quench in any language. How'd it go? Love me. Usually. Sorry about that one.
Manu, das will ich auch, das neue Anno.
Ach ja?
Ja, da können wir jetzt zusammenspielen.
Und unsere eigenen Welten schaffen. Guck mal, was ich hier habe.
Oh, du hast es ja schon. Mann, oh Mann.
Ja?
Das neue Anno, Mann.
Anno 1701. Dieses Computerspiel begeistert alle.
Mann, oh Mann, das neue Anno, Mann. Sorry, German is really bad. But we actually got a very famous soap opera actor, Sky Dumont, to do that one. And yeah, Anno has been, let's say, kind of a German phenomenon for quite a time. Quick show of hands for the audience. Who of you in the audience has played an Anno game? Okay, what? For the record, it's about 60 to 70%. Okay, I'm really taken back here. Usually for German audiences, I have like 80 or 90% because everyone has an Anno at home. It's on daddy's PC, like he's doing his taxes and his Anno. For international audiences, it's more like, hey, who heard of that weird German city builder series? And one guy in the back raises his hand, and everyone turns. It's like he just admitted to doing Japanese dating games. But I see we have an experienced audience here. So, hello, welcome to my little... That again. Sorry. To a little expedition, an annual retrospective of 5 Anno games. So yeah, I worked on them since 1701, which gives me like 300 years of experience in the industry. And started out back with 1701 when it was still related designs, and we took over the reins from our Austrian studio, the Max Design, who did the first 2 annos, which I won't go into more depth in here, just starting out with 1701. What I have now in the next, let's say, half an hour is little tidbits and background information, war stories from the development of each of them. And afterwards you can pepper me with some questions. But first, just a little explanation, which obviously is not as necessary in this room. That's okay, what is ANNO at all? Yeah, basically we are a city builder game that's about kind of placing down houses, doing production chains, and kind of raising it up to a huge empire. I like to compare it to something like a real-time 4X game, like feel it's close to something like a civilization game, so grand scale, grand strategy games. But at the same time, you can also play as an RTS and just use a little ships, go around and kill pirates. Generally, that's what you do most of the time. You place buildings, like have a huge interface and 60, 70 different buildings, and try to figure out how to best use your space, how to make it look nice, and well, how to get the most efficient layout and production scenes going. Very German game. Also, ANNO is quite popular. We have a lot of different resources and media. There was a ANNO board game back in the days, designed by Klaus Teuber, him of Settlers of Catan. We had there's an ANNO novel, which I admittedly never read, but I said it's huge in a lot, especially in Germany. And that for us, for me at Related Science, started out in 2006, which was the release of ANNO 1701. It was the first one that was in 3D, and also built up a lot on the ideas of discovery and working with the kind of age of sail and exploring the new world. And I have a trailer for you, which is the original intro back from the day.
I remember. I can even remember the day. That day, 1701. I was a young fool. Entered the throne room with nothing but dreams of daring and a burning thirst for action. Still, Her Majesty was considerate, listened to me. All I needed was a ship and someone to believe in me. We followed the wind west, sailed with the dolphins. I often asked myself if I'd promised too much, when I boastfully filled Her Majesty's ears with the prospect of settling huge tracts of land. Many industrious hands went to work, built a prospering settlement from nothing. Then it happened. The damage. We did more. The city shone as never before. Today, trade flourishes. Her Majesty is satisfied. It paid off. Back in 1701.
So I still get goosebumps from some sound of the music. It's been a time. But to get all of the teams, it's like, yeah, we have Epic Exploration, Age of Sail, and that's how it looked in the end. Quite colorful, lots of little houses, and yeah, it took us some time to get it right. And we used some things to get it right back in 2006. Actually, we started out with something that is nowadays called UX, or User Experience Research. No one heard of that back in the day. So what we did was, for 71 already, was doing kind of guy from the street tests. Like, we actually grabbed people off the street, like, hey, do you have an hour? And set them in front of the game, and basically had them play, and just watched them play, while the designer stood in the back and took notes and tried not to curse too much. There were very famous incidents that changed the way we designed the game fundamentally. One of them included stuff like, remember the very first ANNOs where you start out with your ship and you have to set out and kind of find your first settlement where you want to build? Well, what happened a lot in our first builds was basically people were starting out with their ship, clicking around, testing out every button, including the button that would destroy their ship, which, since we didn't have a fail state, would lead to they didn't have a ship anymore, they couldn't continue playing, and they would kind of click around 5 more minutes until they finally go back and say, what do I do in this game? When we said, okay, maybe we need some kind of security so you don't do that anymore. In the more modern ANNOs, that's why you start out with a market house and build houses in the beginning. You no longer start with a ship. So that was one of the things we learned from first UX testing. Also, as you should know, another, let's say, open secret is that not many people in our development team were active, let's say, hardcore economy builders. We had like 2 or 3 people who we try to refer to, like, hey, what would an ANNO player usually like? But the rest of us was, I mean, it's 2005, so all of us were playing World of Warcraft. And I just got reminded of that since the classic game released, I think, some weeks ago. And I looked back at it and said, yeah, you know what, we took a lot of inspirations from World of Warcraft back in the day, because that was what everyone was playing. And in a way that for me, that kind of saved the series, or pushed the series in a way where I said, hey, okay, we're taking things that we like quests and items and character development, and put them in a economy game that did not have that before, and really changed the game that way. I think it worked out for the better. Still, it's one of the more hidden inspirations, maybe. Also, Android 71 was pretty popular and got a lot of worldwide releases, including one in China. That's the official cover of the Chinese Android 71 version. I just had to put it out there and say, yeah, after that we started to have harder art guidelines and creative directions to what you can do with the cover and what not. Also, maybe some of you may remember, with 71 we did something else. That is, we did a user-generated content. I actually had a map wizard tool that was delivered with the game, where you could create your own little scenarios and maps. Probably no one ever tried that. The problem with this was we were basically trying to do a very, 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 very casual version of the tools we were using ourselves, which meant that power users that actually wanted to do games and kind of create stuff, they didn't have the power they wanted. And everyone else, kind of regular players, are going, why would I need this? This is just too much. Still, that was our first foray into user-generated design content. Another one. Things we changed over time. The meteor of the add-on in 1701 was originally supposed to be a flood wave. Then real disaster struck. in 2004, right? It was a Booking Day tsunami in the Philippines, if I remember correctly. And the publisher actually said, no, you can't do a tsunami disaster in the game. Think of the public relations. And we actually changed the feature. But, by the way, it was the one and only time that ever happened. Years back, there were no other people with this kind of claims or qualms. I vividly remember designing mechanics for oil spills while Deepwater Horizon was going on, and was trying to figure out the mechanics of doing kind of what happens if a flood wave hits a nuclear power plant just when Fukushima happened. That was in later ANNOs when the publisher was not as reluctant to change the features because of that. Oh, and let's see who might have known that one. There was also an ANNO mobile game. Yes, we did mobile before it was cool. Yeah, it kind of looked like that. And to top it all off, it was even some kind of companion app. You could transfer your gold you got in the mobile game back to the HD game. Whoa. It's features no one expects from those old games, but we were always a little bit ahead of the curve. Same with the next one, ANNO 1404, which for many is the quintessential ANNO to this day. Little music and trailer for that one. That's how it looked in the end. The first ANNO to actually include two different playable factions. I mean, you played one faction, but you could have different houses, production chains. So in the mid-game, you would start to build up something else on different islands instead of just kind of the one civilization. Some features for 1404. Starting out that originally the harbor system that we saw in the previous picture used to snap. As it is often in game development, we tried around a lot until we came to our final solution. That meant we could kind of paint it like the wall system and kind of had fixed modules in the beginning where you would kind of try to snap stuff together. And it worked kind of well from the user perspective, but it created too many similar looking things. And in the end, we were pretty happy with the final system. Still, that's like, I'd say 6 to 9 months of just research time to come between, kind of to finesse that out and really polish it to a level where you say, hey, harbor system is working, let's release that. Time in general. We spend so much time on the interface. I personally started out on interface design on 1701. That was like my first job. You know, back in the day, there was no interface or UX department, so it's basically game design does that. And I spent a lot of time just kind of figuring stuff out and scripting things, and continued to do that in 1404. And as a result of that, one of the standing rules for Anno designers to this day is whatever feature you come up with, you have to deliver a mock-up, front-end mock-up, like how would this thing actually look like? Okay, I know you have this great idea of this awesome trade feature where people can do everything, but how would people interact with that? I need like 20,000 sliders. So no. The interface limitations are one reason why we are limiting ourselves to the awesome 999 tons of cargo wherever. Just the 3 digits fit better into the UI. So sorry if you wanted to have more. 999 is quite enough. Yeah. Also, going on with the user-generated content, because we're always innovative and doing the next big thing, we created the gateway to the world. Quick show of hand. Has any one of you used that? Gateway to the world? Upload your profile, share your screenshots, rate screenshots of other people. No one? Yeah, I know. Yeah, too bad. We had some success in, let's say, international audiences. I think we have some Americans who liked it, but overall it was not pretty published or people know it's there. But you could do that, really. Yeah, you have an account, share stuff. Oh, okay. The next picture. Quick warning beforehand. The next picture is controversial. Please calm yourself. So, we tried out curved roads and gridless building. We had the prototype in 1404. The image here is from a little city I myself built in our editor back in the day, where we were evaluating if it was okay to try a non-grid-based approach and basically have it looking differently. As a result, we didn't go that way, okay? You all know that. Mainly because of the main game is about doing efficiency, and the curved stuff really fights that core gameplay mechanic. But the idea is still around and will come up with every new iteration of the game. Just so you know, there are technical ways to do that. Still, that's the one innovation we did not include in 1404. But then we went on into the future. That's a pretty nice one. We actually released the announcement for Anno 2070 on April 1st, 2010, I think. And really everyone, and we had to do another marketing event like the day after to assure everyone, yes, we're doing that. It's not an April's joke. Awesome timing. For 2070, we really went in a whole different direction and said, okay, we're still using our engine. The mechanics features are working, but let's completely change the setting into the future.
"2070, the world has changed. Climate change and the rise of the oceans has destroyed large parts of the ecosystem and forced us to rethink. The traditions of society have changed, parts becoming commercial enterprises, the tycoons. Others choosing a harmonious life with nature, the ecos. The pursuit of our planet's remaining resources has begun. Whatever it takes, leaving behind barren wastelands. But new technologies endanger the last undiscovered habitat, the sea. Here, untapped natural resources are waiting to be claimed, but not without our say. We are the driving force of the underworld. We are the techs. Anno 2070. Time to create the future.
By the way, that one sentence got us the game signed. Time to build the future. Yeah. Walking up to Ubi CEO Yves Gilmont. Yves, we're going to build the future. He's like, yeah, you do that. Besides that one quote, I personally like the intros without the speaker more. But at least you get a little introduction of what's going on in this game. And see, we're still working on the same engine as ANNO 1404, which was an in-house development. So at Related Designs, we created our own game engine, our own game tools, and had our own department just doing graphics programming, tool programming, just for that game. It was pretty well. We never kind of had to deal with Unity or other middleware developers, but had a little trouble integrating into Ubisoft later in the day when everyone was using different engines, and we had our own house homework thing. Something you probably did not know about 2070 is that besides the 3 factions we had in the trailer, there was a 4th faction that we concepted and designed up until kind of close to production. The 4th faction was supposed to be kind of urban, some kind of more media type things, something you would see with your some in 1800 with your kind of aristocratic or writing people. We dropped them short before production because we thought 3 factions is already pretty much. We were very right. 3 factions is already very much. Another thing, we always had fun with the online modes. The online modes in ANNO were always this thing where it's like, okay, listen guys, you need to design online features because you want players to be online, but they don't have to be online. So design something that's fun but not necessary. So yeah, we designed something that's fun but not necessary, which in this case is a Conquest Team PvP mode, which really fits the slow single-player building game we have. But one of the things we did was, I really had fun with, I did that fun personally, was we did a paper prototype of the Conquest mode, which consisted of me going around, giving save games of ANNO to everyone in the company, and then manually writing down and kind of doing the database stuff that later would work on the server. Now we played it for 1 day. And the results were as expected. We had like 2 or 3 people in the company who were totally focused on that. Okay, lost all kinds of productivity. Was just focusing on, okay, I'm going to win this. And the rest is like, yeah, I played a little of ANNO. Where do I turn this in? Oh, I didn't get any points. Is that bad? Which, by the way, kind of mirrors what the community is doing with this kind of PvP modes. Okay. It's 1% of players like, we do this. And the rest is chugging along and say, hey, just point me in a direction. Still, lots of fun doing online modes. And one of the things you may not have noticed when you played ANNO 2070, along with the underwater islands. Yeah, you remember in the intro, the last sentence, like, yeah, undiscovered resources, we're going underwater. Obviously, a lot of players didn't realize that was already in the base game. That was one of the things when we released the add-on with additional stuff for underwater was really lauded as, oh, wow, wait, they're doing an underwater add-on. Wow, that's innovative. We're like, okay, we're glad you like it. But that was not the only thing you might have missed. The other thing you might have missed is a lot of content we created. Okay, I'm going into a little bit Excel sheets because that's what I spend a lot of time when designing a game. I have a lot of Excel sheets in front of me. And one of them is something like this that goes, okay, we have created like 500 unique islands that players can settle. Now let's see, what do we need for this map to work? Like, okay, only that many islands. I need someone for the echoes. I need islands for the text. I need distributions here. I need some underwater islands. In the end, the constraints were so hard from the balancing requirements that you maybe saw, let's say, 100, like a quarter of the stuff we actually created. So if the game appeared a little bit repetitive, that was because of the balancing goals. Sorry about that. Another thing. Remember the echo balance? That thing where, hey, when you build your smokestacks, your little coal diggers, whatever you do to contaminate the atmosphere, idea originally was to make that thing global. You can still see residues of that feature in the game. If you check out the game, there's this one overview where you can basically see how many power plants are built and kind of the overall view, what has the community done. And we originally planned to kind of have that affect every single game that everyone was playing. We scrapped that because it's obviously unfun. I mean, I cannot control if someone over there is polluting, and I just want to play over here. So yeah, fun rules out reality. But by the way, if you want to do some echo warfare, that's still possible in the game. So if you're doing this in multiplayer, you can still do stuff like, if you're a Tycoon player, you can rush over to an island where you have an echo player, just plant down some hard factories and they will go bankrupt immediately because they can't deal with the pollution. Nice side features. Okay, and then we did another future ANNO. By the way, the first one without the plank. Remember a little logo plank? We tried to do that one without. And we decided to stay in the future mainly because one reason was that we wanted to tell everyone that no, we're doing this seriously. We can do future settings. That was not a one-time thing. On the other hand, it also made us easier for us to introduce a new engine, because that was what 2205 did. We had a completely new game engine to run on. And we went even further and more large scale. And the moment I find my... Here we go.
KWZ Drive Time, coming to you from the beautiful city. Coming up soon for you guys.
Hey Mike, what's your ETA?
I'm heading back now. Over.
Proceed to 26.133 degrees north, 3.628 degrees east.
Got it.
BAW-705 heavy, hold position. I'll get you moving in a minute.
BAW-705 heavy, hold in November.
107 heavy, you're cleared to go. Opening hold right, check. 107 heavy, you are cleared to departure.
277, check.
I like how the last shot of that kind of trailer is still the spaceship landing in the city, because otherwise you could forget that it's about city building, which was a kind of actual feel that you could get if you look at it. Like, what game is this? Are we doing some kind of frontier now? Anyway, 2005 was really the one where you push the limits of how large can we go. Lots of modules, lots of new introductions, completely new engines, and the largest place to build, which design-wise created a problem that can be described as, hey, if you have a lot of space to fill, you should give people some interesting stuff to do with all of that space, which was not always easy to do. Side note, okay, I don't want to riff on our level designers, but I really like that map and it's really well done. I just don't understand the logistics of the dam here. Like, I mean, the sides, that's the ocean, right? And where does the water go? Anyway, don't think about it too much. Served us pretty well. One of the little things you might have heard about the game is that originally we wanted to do a online game. Yeah, the whole concept of, hey, now I have a lot of islands, a lot of sessions, stuff connected, balance transfers between everything, was really designed to work between servers, different players, and really scale up. We had to cut that idea in the conception phase, unfortunately. Also because I think another city builder that tried something similar failed a longer time. If someone of you remembers, I think it was Cities XL. They tried something similar. So the holy grail of city builders, the all online, everyone builds, is still out there. We did the solo game that originally included a full second core loop in the top. Okay, I'm going to skip it. That's basically just design porn, so to show you. But I work a lot with those kind of flow charts, and just let me tell you, there's a lot of design in there, and the blue stuff, it wasn't in the game in the end. Same with the technology. A feature we added in the add-on with the orbital station, which was probably the most interesting thing we ever designed. It was not necessarily the most interesting thing to play, but very interesting to design. There's a huge difference. Still, one learning from that is if you do something that's called science, people will expect a linear progress path that will lead them to ever better upgrades. If your game demands that people continue playing and don't have a fixed end of content, end of the game, you want to keep them tweaking, you need something more like a talent tree or something where they can repeatedly go back to that and don't have a finite end. Which is why in the end we had to rename it from science to technology, because if you call it science, everyone just expects the linear progression. Okay, sorry, design speak again. Going into other stuff. Oh yes, and we had planned a trip to Mars. Some of you who may have seen the initial credits, may have seen a little video where we alluded to that. That was cancelled later in the post-launch, but the video was still in there, and the marketing department made us very quickly pull everything that alluded to the Mars add-on. In the end, I'm pretty happy we did that, because honestly, to do Mars, you would need to do a completely different game. Which, by the way, you have a lot of options right now. There's a lot of Mars games out there. And just to add that on top of already large 2205 would be just too much. Which brings me to the final one, ANNO 1800, released just this year. It's a little German indie game that was pretty successful so far as I know. And was a direct reaction of a lot of feedback we got from the two science fiction annos. 1800, the age of industrialization, has always been one of our favorite settings. So it was like pulling the brake and say, hey, let's do that. It's a very, very early concept. That's like from 10 years ago when we had when we went with the far right with the near future setting. but you can already see the industrialization topic was in discussion back then. I can't tell you so much about 1800 right now because I'm only worked for a few months on that. But the one thing I can tell you is that if you like the game, if you want to engage with the series, you can go over on the website and join the ANNO community, join the ANNO Union, which is really the first time we ever did something like actual community management and having the community people sitting with the developers and really talking with each other, which we haven't done for 10 years earlier. Never before that. And with that, as said, if you like the series, I'm going to end with a little trailer for 1800. And off into the future. Again, thank you very much. We do have like 5 minutes for questions, if you have them.
So first of all, thank you for the presentation. I've actually got one not directly related to ANNO, but more to Ubisoft. So what is it like to work as part of a larger company, larger publisher, and how does the communication go between you and higher up? Like how difficult is that to balance?
So the question was like, how is it to work for a larger publisher compared to a, let's say, smaller size one? I've been there for the transition, and I say, from my experience, it depends on the team and the project in general. I can say for the ANNO team, that has always been very self-contained. That is, you have the one development studio in Mainz, and you have a few contact persons, but usually you don't have too much direct influence from the publisher. You have to meet your milestones, of course, and several gates, but usually we can do what we like as long as we meet the expected goals. If you have more concrete questions, could ask later.
Hi, and thanks for the presentation. I just have a question about ANNO 1800. I know you said you can't say much about it, but I was wondering if you can tell us anything about the backlash you received over pulling it from Steam, or it not being available on Steam?
I really can't do that, sorry. No, which is not a marketing no comment, but I haven't been at the company at the time when that happened. Okay.
Hi, thank you for coming. You talked about UI and UX design previously, and I'm personally a former game development student and a 2D artist, so it was kind of my my job to do a lot of UI design. What are your tips in getting better at UI design, and well, how do you get better?
That's going to be a course module for like half a semester, and short. I think the short version is to keep watching people, keep really observing how people interact with your interface, how they perceive things, not how you think they do, but how they actually perceive it. That's the kind of best thing where you always keep learning.
I think we can take one more.
Cheers and thanks for the talk. I love the ANNO series. The bits played probably all of them at some point. Do you think that you have exhausted the basic core loop and the mechanics by now, or do you think that there's still room to innovate in the grid system and the basic stuff? And also, what's up with the 9?
Okay. That's a very, very involved question. So the first one, thank you for your patronage. By the way, we have a lot of people that have thousands of hours played at ANNO and then kind of downvote the review because of one issue. Happens from time to time. I don't think we have exhausted anything yet. If so, with 1800, with 2005, we kept innovating the series, we kept innovating the formula. There's a lot of features that were used once or maybe twice, and we can still iterate and improve. So I don't see that there's yet an end for innovation. There's a lot of stuff we can do still. And about the last question, what's up with the 9? Well, that's just a little bit of developer superstition. For you who don't know, all ANNO titles have to be kind of add up to a 9 if you kind of combine the numbers, and which is why 1800 was the only one in the century that we could do. And yeah, it's basically just superstition, and we're running with it. Let's see where it goes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, and see you around.